Hey guys, this is Mad Rabbit. I am in World of Warcraft today, and basically, sort of like a continuation of our last episode in World of Warcraft, where no, this is not part of the Flame Broiled series, but this is just still sort of me just doing different things, goofing around. This is where I make an attempt at Vortex Pinnacle today, attempting to solo it on normal mode. However, I do fail, so I will tell you that ahead of time. I get to a certain point where you have to fight two healers in one group. I actually do get by. Oh, I think it's two of the bosses. Yeah, I think it's two of the bosses in most of the encounters. I think I died maybe twice, maybe three times. I can't remember now. I think it's twice I died in here. One against just a group of mobs that was a little too big, and I did pretty good, all things considered. It's not a bad way to farm for gold, I guess, if you can maybe not die, obviously, and you know your cutoff point and you don't go beyond it. I know that the one encounter that I'm gonna go up against, I just don't think I think I'd stop right before it if I ever did this again. But as you see, I do have a rough time of it, much more so than I did in last episode where I did Black Rock Caverns, where I can do that in normal mode and I almost never die. I think I died once in the 5 or 6 runs I've done now, and that's just my own foolish stupidity for standing in something I shouldn't have been standing in. So you know, I'm still pulling down a pretty good profit. What I'm really trying to determine right now, as far as gold farming goes, is really whether it's worth it to farm these instances or not, or really whether it's actually better off to farm maybe heroic Lich King ones, because actually the disenchanted essences, and even to some extent maybe some of the gear there, I don't know. I guess maybe some of the disenchanted the dust sell pretty well. Was that infinite dust? I think it is from Lich King stuff. I can't remember, but either way, some of that stuff is selling really well, and because not too many people are farming it, and in fact, not too many people are online really even playing this game. I'm noticing right now because there seems to be a real lack of a lot of the enchanting stuff that always sold for really good. And yeah, I guess you can still make your money with the gems if you do that. Just grab tons of elementium ore and make red gems, but I don't know how much of a market there is for that. I don't know how. A lot of people left for Diablo 3 for a while, waiting for the next expansion. So I'm not sure how much money you can really make off of that anymore. That used to be the big thing, this expansion to make money. And when it first started the expansion, it was the cloth, Ember Silk cloth, which still sells for pretty good. I mean, I think on my server it's not as well as obviously when game launched. But if we're talking about gold farming here, if we're talking about preparing for Mists of Pandaria, or that sort of thing, I guess that's sort of some of the stuff you got to consider. I personally think that what I'm going to be doing for gold farming, I'm going to dabble in this stuff here in current content, the normal. Most likely, I'll probably stick with that one I'm fairly good at, Black Rock Caverns. I will continue to do that one, just for probably the disenchanted crystals and maybe the green items. I think they're going to sell decently. I have sold a few already. It's that they don't sell as quickly as I'd like. I'm one of these people that's sort of an impatient auctioneer type. If it doesn't sell after maybe 4 or 5 times listing something, I go, wow. I either get tempted to lower the price on it, or I'm tempted just to disenchant the item if it's obviously like a green or a blue or something, but or just vendor sell it, which sometimes you actually have to do for some things that just aren't going to sell or aren't selling. But yeah, so in all likelihood, I'm thinking of going back to the Lich King ones, doing heroics, and then maybe occasionally doing normals on some of the upper level ones. The higher level ones, like more like the ones that are in Storm Peaks and Ice Crown, like on normal. I mainly because the disenchanted materials and the frostweave cloth. Now, I mean, I know you're probably saying frostweave cloth. Well, yeah, every alts will always need it, of course. I mean, you can sell always cloth always sells well, but it's not the cloth that I'm selling. It's the fact that I'm making tons and tons of bags right now for in preparation for all the new alts that are going to be made coming this Mists of Pandaria. Now, if everyone goes and makes tons of these frostweave bags and floods the market with them the first day out, I think you're gonna eventually find that even the listing price might be cheap initially. They're gonna sell out real quick, and then maybe like a few hours or maybe a day after the launch, people are gonna be like clamoring for bags. So even netherweave, which is dirt cheap right now, if you can get netherweave bags, they're all these bags are going to sell for way more than what they're selling for now. And I'm already noticing some inflation on some of these bags right now, just because I think because people have a lot of gold right now. Even I've got a lot of gold. For me, it's what I have now is like quite a huge amount. I'm blown away that I have this much. It's mainly because I'm not leveling any professions right now. And actually, I am leveling professions, but I'm doing it legit. Like I'm actually going out and getting the materials and all that. So if you remember last episode, I was talking about maybe changing some of my professions around on my people, and I decided to take like sort of an easier way rather than doing it on like 7 or like a zillion people and switching things around. I just did it on 2. Um, the mage that you saw, the it was a gnome mage. Now she had herbalism and alchemy, and I decided, I want somebody to have engineering, but to me, I just didn't want the panda to have it, and I didn't want that paladin to have it, who didn't have any skills at all yet at the time. I think it just for more like a role-playing feel to it, it would be a good idea for her to have it. I would just like the idea of having a gnome being the engineer or the hunter, which was what I was thinking of. The hunter, I almost was going to do with it for the hunter. But I would have had, she was my main gatherer. I would have had she would have either had to have dropped mining or skinning, which is what she had. Now, I couldn't drop mining. If you're going to become an engineer, you might as well just keep it. So I would have had to drop skinning. That means somebody was going to have to pick up skinning. And it just, to me, it didn't feel right to have the paladin who was sort of the empty guy at the moment. He was the one I was going to put the blacksmithing on. He didn't feel right to have him do the skinning. And I was almost thinking of dropping enchanting on my main character, the rogue. So I know I'm babbling here. No one knows what the heck I'm talking about. So all right, but either way, I was almost going to drop the enchanting on her since I had one other enchanter and whole other just because she's not good at farming compared to the Death Knight, which you're seeing here. He's the other enchanter. So I figured, well, I can just have her, since she's a leather crafter, having skinning with her will be good. And since she's the first character I'll use when Mists of Pandaria comes out, I'll be doing a lot of skinning. But I won't actually level skinning. I'll actually sell the leather, since everyone's going to try to level up quickly on the first day out and all this stuff. So I'm thinking, to me, that could have been an idea. I didn't like something about, she had enchanting from the very beginning, she was my very first character. I didn't like the idea of just dropping enchanting on her for some reason. I don't know why. I just didn't like the idea of it. I may still do it at some later point here. In which case, if I do that, then I don't know what I'll do. For that hunter, maybe I'll drop skinning. But all right, but I digress. So either way, okay. So she's got a level engineering, this mage, and the blacksmithing is starting from scratch again on this paladin. So I gave him mining, and he's basically going out and mining for both people, since you obviously need a lot of copper just on that first level for both of them. Now I'm going out, I'm spending hours and hours getting copper. I go back to the city, and mainly in Elwyn Forest, obviously. Then I'm going back, and it's like, holy crap! I only got like 5 or 10 levels from all this copper I mined. This stinks. I still have, so basically I'm decided I'm gonna level that darn blacksmithing first and get that done. And I've had to go on like 2 or 3 excursions where I've literally farmed for hours to get the copper, and I still haven't had any. He still hasn't reached the level where he's done with the copper, because the next stuff he's going to start doing is going to start using bronze, which is going to also require copper. So it's just a whole thing. It's like, to me, I know Blizzard made it this way. I mean, maybe I shouldn't complain, but I am going to complain. I just think that the amount of mats for leveling these things is a little too steep, because you burn through these levels so quickly now when you're a low level character, regardless of whether you have heirloom gear or not. I almost think, like, rather than having like some crappy pair of pants that's only item level 10 or 20, costing like 10 sticks of 10 ingots of copper, maybe it shouldn't really be that high, don't you think? I mean, so that they can actually benefit from their profession while they're leveling up. Just call me crazy. That, to me, that's just common sense. So I've been thinking a lot lately about what they can do to make World of Warcraft a better game. To me, it almost scrap the existing game and do my idea. But I know everyone out there would disagree with me completely. They would say, "Oh, you got to do more towards this or more towards that." To me, what I would do to make World, this is basically what they would have to do for World of Warcraft 2. A, eliminate level completely. No one levels up. What you would do, it'd all be about item level, basically. And what you would do, you would quest through the game. You would quest through the game to get the higher item level stuff for PvE gear. So what you would do is, like, let's say you're a human, right? You're starting out in Forest. Now you go through a huge storyline in Elwyn Forest. I looked at Elwyn Forest and I played through it since Cataclysm came out, and while the quests are typical Blizzard crap quests, you could actually make a story there. Like, actually make it more like, I'm thinking the best story as far as zones go was the starter story for the Worgen. And I mean, if you've played through it, it's more of a story, even though it still has a lot of annoying dumb quests. They're just typical Blizzard quests. I would make it so that each zone would be a story in and of itself. It had cutscenes. You'd have maybe 2 or 3 characters in that zone that you interact with. There'd be complete and total voice acting over everything. So your quests that you get, they would be voice acted. Obviously, you can only do so much with the voice acting, because you'd have repeat voices and stuff. I mean, we've noticed that, like in Skyrim and in Oblivion, they just go to repeat the same voices over and over again when you do full voice acting. That just comes with the territory, I guess. To me, I would make each zone like a story, and I'd even expand upon it, make it more story than even the Worgen starter zone. So that when you go into a zone, what you're getting is a full story. Now, what you get by completing the zone is unlocking the next zone. But also at the end of this zone, you get certain rewards for finishing it. And it would actually more utilize the zone, because I'm noticing in a lot of these zones in the game now, they spend a lot of effort making beautiful zones in Cataclysm, but they didn't actually utilize the zones like fully. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you look at Elwyn Forest, and there's like huge plots of land there that you don't actually quest through, or you just run in there quickly and you have to fight some creatures and you run out and you fight the same stupid bears and wolves on the way out as you fought on the way in, and there's just no feel to it. You know what I mean? What there should be is an actual story. Now, certain zones would focus on the war, and they would almost be like PvP stuff, but it wouldn't be like necessarily, you're forced to be into PvP, but you had certain aspects where you could possibly run into people that are tagged and you're tagged, and so, but the thing is, with each zone, you would get all sorts of extra neat things for playing. Basically would be rewarded for playing the zone. So let's say you start out your new character, you got basically white items. Now, obviously, each quest you complete, you maybe get some green items that would maybe be a slight item level higher than what you got. But also what you would have is, because we want to start customizing stuff, you would have things like, we would be able to unlock stuff. You have all kind of account bound stuff where basically you play through this. Let's say you're playing through Elwyn Forest. You unlock like certain looks for gear, and now all this would basically be like on this huge transmog tab. You wouldn't actually have the items, but they'd be unlocked. So like say you play through the zone, and at certain points and doing certain quests, you unlock maybe some chain pants and some plate shoes, and you unlock these things. So when you play other characters later that maybe could actually use them, they would actually be able to use them. But then when you're done with the actual quest for the zone and the actual story in the zone, what you would do for each zone, and I was thinking more along the lines of like when you look at like a zone like Thousand Needles, that zone is so underutilized. It was kind of a neat looking zone. And before all the water flooded in there, we had the what was it, the salt flats, and they were going to have like racing things there. I think each zone should almost have like a whole like mini thing, like a mini game, almost like Argent Tournament is, but not really so much with dailies. But you would have to go daily to kind of grow in that zone's mini game. So what you would do is you would encourage people to go back to that zone. So let's use Thousand Needles as an example because I was thinking specifically about it. At least before Cataclysm hit, um, you could have actually had vehicles on the salt flats that maybe you did races on, and maybe you upgraded the darn cars, like the vehicles or wherever we actually do. Maybe they'd be like more like chariots pulled by horses or something, or some mount. And you'd need engineering and leatherworking and blacksmithing to actually make the parts for it. So actually, the professions wouldn't really make too much of the weapons and armor anymore. Maybe they'd be more for some of these mini games, and some of them would probably, so my idea is make it more about story. Then when you're done with that zone, you're unlocking also the ability to run in raids and dungeons that are associated with the storyline in that zone. But what you would also do, obviously going back to the zones for certain things. Let's say Elwyn Forest, you go back and you do something with like wood cutting, like that would be a new profession or something to supplement things. So you'd go back and you'd have to cut wood, or I don't know, you'd have to. It would be something interesting, like around it, structured around these zones. So it would actually make it sort of interesting to want to go back to each zone and do stuff. And also there would be like roaming monsters and stuff that would be like you required to. They would be extremely powerful or something, and maybe you'd be required to get a small group together in order to take it on. More like basically more world monsters and more world bosses, where you would see them maybe once a day and they'd pop up at a random time. But they'd drop maybe a decent item, at least for the zone. Maybe it would be like a greater item level than the zone. But all this would have to be obviously balanced, so that people just don't go in and then they get a bunch of gold from some high level character and buy the higher item levels, and then you're like not playing through not playing through the game at all. There'd have to be some way like you almost force the characters to play through the stories of at least like so many zones in order to basically move on to higher tier stuff or something. Like you would have to play through like maybe 6 zones, unlock all the dungeons and raids in them, and then build yourself up in item level in order to be able to take on the stuff in the next set of zones, whatever that would be. And to me, also, I would restructure the map. I know this would annoy people, but I'm looking at like places like in the south of was that Kalimdor is the name of the continent? Yeah, I keep forgetting the names. But you look at Daenerys, you look at was it Ulduar, Uldum, something like that, and then Silithus, and like hardly anyone goes to Silithus anymore. Only a few people maybe go to Daenerys, mainly just for this neat stuff that's in Gadgetzan or whatever. But it's all basically desert. I would almost like you gotta start getting away from these zones that are completely walled off by either water or just like such a drastic change in the environment. You know what I mean? Like every zone in the game has got like a ring of mountains around it, which just doesn't make sense to me. And some of these are like Okay, so you have the dwarven zone, and then like right directly north of it, you have a frickin' swamp zone, right north of an Arctic zone, which is actually in the middle. The Arctic zone is like in the middle of the continent, like almost like where the equator would be. How is it possible that you'd have an Arctic environment near the equator? It just doesn't make sense. And the gnomes, I mean, they actually need like their own thing there. I'm thinking like you would break up um, that zone. I forget the name of it. The zone that the dwarves are in. We'd almost break it up into two. You break the mountains down so that it goes to the coast, and the gnomes would sort of be on the coast, and it would be more temperate, and it would kind of gradually build up as you're going closer to Ironforge itself. No more gone when it wouldn't be a stupid instance anymore. It would actually be like a coastal city that the gnomes can actually be in, and give them a little bit of freaking lore. I mean, or something. And just that's what I'm saying. That's what this game's lacking. A reason to go out into the world. Everyone just sits in Stormwind waiting for their to hit the dungeon queues and make their whatever that is their justice points, and then they make their valor points, and then they have to beat the whatever boss, and you just do it over and over and over, or you play the same dailies over and over and over. Who the heck? That is so stupid. It's such an antiquated this gaming model that you would have to get better writers, because currently the way the writing is done is just not right. I'm saying maybe I'm not saying it has to be more mini games, or go out and kill 10 of this, or go out and kill 20 of this, and then gather their items, or go out and kill 20 of this, and then use said quest item on the dead corpse. That's got to end. That's all the quests in the game are almost. That's the formula. It's got to end. That's sort of thing has got to stop. You can't make mini games out of everything, but at the same time, maybe just you get a quest, you're going with a character like one of these stars of the zone that you're in. Let's say you're in Elwyn, and you're escorting around some human guy. He's fighting, maybe he's doing an investigation of some murder, right? Goes to the zone. You're protecting him if you're a healer, like you're healing him and he's doing the combat, teaching you the dynamics of your class. Oh, whoa, hey, I'll actually make World of Warcraft like learner like teach people actually how to use their class to actually heal if they're healers, and actually DPS if they're you know what I mean, so that they're not like it's not like a culture shock. So you would start off with all your class abilities, and then also streamline that a little bit. I think that I got so many darn buttons. Even you can see them. This guy here, I got so many darn buttons for the class. I mean, you almost gotta just you gotta cut out maybe a few things, a few buttons, a few abilities, or make them more passive or something. I don't know, but it's almost just a little too much sometimes, to me, my opinion, I guess. But to me, I like brainstorming about this sort of stuff. As you see here, I die, and that's basically the limit because I can't get beyond this point. Two healers, so well. At any rate, guys, I know we're kind of nearing the end of my footage here. I've been rambling for close to 20 minutes now or more, and I'm really to me, I have all these ideas, and I would like to see maybe in a World of Warcraft 2 or an actual, or maybe if they just strip the entire continents of everything they got now and redo it in this way. I would love to see that. Mainly just because I want a different sort of experience, I guess, in the game, more story based, more interesting, maybe more in the lore department. And I actually every once in a while, like you'll read some kind of thing on the forums. I really hate the forums, but at the same time, all these people that are complaining about the story and about the lack of perhaps lore for certain races and certain people, and how Thrall is maybe too been lifted up too much, and certain characters are ignored or forgotten about. You could really go into these things and explore that more, with these stories. Then you go back to these zones later. They got this phasing technology, use it. Have the whole zone like be another story, like a follow-up story at a higher level or something of equipment. Just an idea. Alright, so I've rambled enough, and I know this is a very long episode, so you won't get too many episodes like this anymore, but thank you guys for watching. This is Mad Rabbit signing off. Let me know your opinion. Hit that like button on the way out if you could, if you like my videos, and I'll catch you next time. Adios.